Hello Vlogmas, welcome back. This is the second video in a day. I can already feel my voice is going. Well, we've got to push through. I was actually going to talk about something else, but my voice isn't there. So let's talk about this topic. What to do when men aren't approaching you. Because I've talked in other videos about how I don't approach men now, and I've literally flip-flopped on this topic so much on my channel. People will probably be so confused because I've made videos saying that I don't approach men. I've done story times where I've approached men. So people are probably so confused. And sometimes even I get confused. I think I boil it down to the notion of wait to be approached, and then leave a 5% window of possibly, if you really, really like someone, then shoot your shot. I think that is possibly the best way to narrow it down. At the end of the day, you get one life. You get one life on this earth, and if you want to shoot your shot, just go and do it. I thought I'd talk about this topic of what to do if men aren't approaching you, because as women, we feel that obviously our self-worth, majority of our self-worth is unfortunately tied up with our appearance and our beauty. So we can feel that if men aren't approaching us, that there's something wrong with us, that we're not good enough, and that can make you feel a whole number of ways that I've talked about on my channel. For me, obviously, my self-worth has always been tied up with my weight and my appearance, and I've dated people and they've literally told me, like, you are pretty, but your body's not the type that I like. And men have physically said that to me, and it's absolutely broken my heart that men would say that to me. And this is the point I'm at now where no one is approaching me. And it's difficult because a lot of the internet tells you to sit back, be a feminine woman, saying that men like feminine women and they will approach if they like you. But that kind of leaves women in a really passive approach, I think, sometimes to dating. I think a lot of the times you have to give men the green light in a way. We have to be honest, is that there's a lot of pressure on men to approach. And if we're honest, a lot of men will only approach if they have a 99% chance of you saying yes. A lot of men won't go out there blind and approach. And I think, like, looking back on my life, men simply have not approached me. Even in my day-to-day life, men don't approach me. And that can tie into the feeling of not being good enough. And obviously, it depends on your situation and what you do as a job. I mean, I go to an office or I work from home. For the people to approach me at work, it's too much of a risk. When I did that men need to be creepy video, like, in the comments, younger men were generally terrified of approaching women. And part of me probably didn't really understand that there is more risk on men approaching women. I can, to a certain extent, get away with approaching someone at work because a man's not going to be threatened by that. If I approach a man at work and they say no, they're not going to go home and worry about their personal safety because they're going to think, it's a woman, what can she do? And obviously there are cases of women that are just crazy and stalk people, etc. But that's going to be a really small selection of women. For the majority of men, there is more of a threat approaching women. There probably is going to be more of a backlash. I still think men should do it, but I can understand why men don't approach in modern times. But at the same point, we're giving out the genders two mixed messages. We're telling women that they need to be feminine and docile, otherwise men will find them unsexy and unattractive. And then we're telling the men that they can't approach women. So that's not helping anyone. if you're telling the women not to approach and you're telling the men not to approach, who is going to win in that? Honestly, the only people winning in that scenario is the makers of dating apps getting their ad revenue. That's literally the only people that are winning. This is slightly off topic, but it got me thinking about the jealousy that I feel, because this is off topic, but I'm a Swiftie. And there was that little part of me that got annoyed that Taylor got out of a 6-year relationship. She had that. We're not even going to go about the Matty Healy thing, because I think that was a decoy so that she could date Travis and there wasn't any pressure. And then she met Travis and she's happy with Travis. And part of me was like really jealous. I was like, that's not fair. She had a 6-year relationship. Obviously, to the outside, people think it's perfect, but it obviously wasn't because they split up. But part of me felt, well, that's not fair. Like, she had that relationship and then she's gone on to find someone else. And then I had to check myself and be like, you're not a billionaire. You're not a 6-foot blonde. You're not a international celebrity. You're not a pop star. Like, stop comparing your whole dating scenario to a famous celebrity who obviously mixes with people constantly all day, has people sliding into their DMs all the time. You can't relate your experience living in a seaside town to that. Your worlds are completely different. So I can't be jealous that people are obviously approaching Taylor Swift and they're not approaching me. Our lives are completely different. And that's sometimes half the problem, is that people like me are sitting comparing their experience to celebrities that have access to more people. Whereas the reality is most people have an ordinary job, go to an office where there's maybe, 10 or 12 people, and they're swiping on Tinder in the evening because they can't find anyone. So just because men aren't approaching you, it doesn't mean it's a lack of self-worth. And this took me a lot of time to realise, because I was watching content that was saying, no one's approaching you, there's something wrong with you, you're the common denominator. And I'd always hear that all the time, this you're the common denominator. Like, if you're single, it's because there's something wrong with you. And it's like, no, there isn't something wrong with you. A lot of dating is purely down to geography. A lot of dating is purely down to people's financial needs. Dating is a lot more nuanced than just people aren't approaching you. I mean, people aren't going to approach you on the train anymore. People aren't going to approach you in bars. A lot of the time, men don't approach women. A lot of the time men end up in relationships is because the woman has approached them. We have sterilised our men to the point where they don't want to approach, to the point where they feel if they do approach, it's more than their job's worth, because they don't want to lose their job, they don't want to lose their livelihood over something that potentially might not work out. This is what I had to realise, is to not get my self-worth tied up with whether or not men approach you or not, because people aren't going to approach me in the office because they're going to have to work with me for the next 2 years or 3 years or whatever. So people aren't going to approach me and be like, hey, do you want to go for a drink? Because the risk is too great for the reward. And also, a lot of people are working from home now, so we've completely fucked up that opportunity of people organically meeting people. Yeah, Me Too did do a lot of good with rooting out institutional abuse of people abusing power, but at the same time, it curated a culture where men feel they can't approach women because it's just too dangerous and it's too much of a risk. That's why I said in that video, men need to be creepy again. Men need to be creepy and approach women for the future of society, really. I don't tend to get triggered anymore by the comments, but one comment I had on one of my recent videos did trigger me a bit, because the person was saying that I was too masculine, and it did trigger me a little bit. And I clapped back and then I deleted it, because I thought, what are we to do if we're telling women to be feminine and no one's approaching them? then how does that actually help women? It doesn't help women. And a lot of women feel they have to fill in the gap and they have to approach men because we've castrated men and they simply don't approach women anymore. So this is why a lot of women fill the gap, but they fill the gap with approaching the wrong people and the wrong person and the person that's not interested. So this is half of why modern dating is so messed up. Obviously, this is just my opinion, but I think there has to be more of a swing of like 60% of the man interested in more than the woman, so that the man is driving it. There has to be that male dominant energy driving things, because like I've said in loads of videos, when it's been me pursuing and driving things, I've just created my own downfall basically, and I've been like chasing emotionally unavailable men. That's why there needs to be more of a swing from the man, of the man pursuing and the man driving things. I think I'm gonna have to stop because my voice is going. We're getting closer now. Merry Christmas, and I'll see you soon for some more Vlogmas. Take care.